we should jump right in so we can try and maximize as much time as we can today. I want us to try and get through some really juicy questions. We might start with the juicy questions and work our way through them. We'll see. We'll see. For those of you who don't know me, hello, I'm Teacher Jen. I'm just looking after you this week. Teacher Coco will be back, so don't worry. But I promise you are in safe hands with me.
Yeah, definitely.
And you've got our amazing TA Nelly with you, who you know, and she's got your back. Yeah. So don't you stress.
Okay. Got you.
We got you. Everything will be fine. We are going to focus on some expressions revision today. So we're going to be looking at, I think we might actually jump over products. We might just jump straight into some factorization questions. We'll see how the lesson goes. And on Wednesday, we're going to be looking at some equations, so some revision of equations, and your quiz will be on both of these sections on Wednesday. Now, remember, Teacher Coco has taught this all to you before, so this is not me teaching you this material. It is a quick revision of it all. So I'm just going to add, some of it might feel like it's going quite fast, but it's just because we're talking about things that you've already done, and then we're going to try and put it all together in some mixed questions. Okay. I love hearing from you guys. If you have answers, put them in the chat for me. If you have questions or you wanting to know more, pop that hand up and we will unmute you so we can chat to you, and we'll just see how the lesson goes. Okay. So before we talk about anything, we need to remember a couple of things about factorization. And we're going to zoom through this quite quickly. The very first thing we have to look for when it comes to factorization is what? What is the very, 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 very first thing? And if it's there, we have to take it out. And if it's not there, then we can move on. But we have to look. Yes, guys, little geniuses. HCF. Okay, so the very first thing we have to do is we have to see, is there a highest common factor? Okay. Now, highest common factor is when we have a number that can, or variables that can go into both terms. So for example, if we have, let's say 2x minus 8, we can see that a 2 can go into my first term and a 2 can go into my second term. And so if I factorize this, then I would take out that 2 as my highest common factor and I'd be left with x minus 4. So that 2 is my highest common factor. Okay. Now we also get something which is quite sneaky, because it's also like a highest common factor, except it's not factor. It's highest common something. Does anyone remember what it is? It's a sneaky one. And it's friends with something called a switcheroo. See if anyone remembers that. Highest common. My hint to you is there are lots of them on the board right now. So it's kind of linked and kind of not linked. The first two letters stay the same. Highest common. No. No. Oh, lots of highest common multiples coming out. No, no, no. Highest common brackets. So sometimes we have a whole bracket that is a highest common factor. So if we have something like this, like if we had a 2x minus 1 plus y x minus 1, this is our highest common bracket. And so when we factorize it, we take out our highest common bracket and we write what we're left with. Okay, so it's kind of like a highest common factor, except we're taking out a highest common bracket. Yeah, so when we group, the whole purpose of grouping is to get a highest common bracket. And sometimes we have a switcheroo involved here, but we'll see if we can chat about that just now. Okay, so that's number one. Then we move on. So we say, okay, cool. There either was a highest common factor and we took it out, or there wasn't a highest common factor. We look for the brackets. Either we have to do a switcheroo or we don't. Then we say, okay, cool. How many terms are there? Now, if there are 2 terms, what is the first thing that we're going to see if it possibly is the case? If we have 2 terms. So that 2 is standing for 2 terms. So our question now has 2 terms. It didn't have a highest common factor, or it did and we took it out. What do we look for now? Great. Dots. Okay, so dot stands for difference of 2 squares. Okay, so we need to have 2 terms. There needs to be a minus sign. That's why there's a D for difference. And the squares, both of them have to be square numbers. So an example of that is if I have x squared minus 4, that's going to become x plus 2, x minus 2. Okay. Now dots also has like a sneaky cousin. So the way that we have highest common brackets is the sneaky cousin of the highest common factor. Dots has a sneaky cousin, which is also if we have 2 terms, and it is called the sum or difference. So it can be both of cubes. So it's like its sneaky cousin. So I like to call the socks and docs. So the socks is sum of cubes and the docs is difference of cubes. Okay. It also is only when we have 2 terms, and that's when we have cubed numbers. Now the cubed ones are a little bit nastier. So I'm going to go through this quite slowly and carefully so you understand what I'm doing. Okay. If I have x cubed minus 8, now remember that could be minus 8 or plus 8 because it's sum or difference. Doesn't matter. Okay. But there's 2 terms and they are both cubed numbers. So today's topic is revision of algebraic expressions. We're going to have 2 brackets. Now, inside this first bracket, we are going to cube root both of our terms. So the cube root of x cubed is x, and the cube root of negative 8 is 2. Okay, so that sign stays the same. So whatever sign is there, that stays the same. So it's both negative. Okay, so we've done our cubes of both. That gives us our first bracket. Now we need to figure out our second bracket. Our second bracket, we do a bunch of different things. The first thing we do is we square the first term. So x times x gives me x squared. We also square the last term. So negative 2 squared gives me positive 4. Then for our middle term, this is the one which is the nasty term. Okay, we work out the product. So we say x times negative 2, which is negative 2x. So we work out the product and then we change the sign. So if it's negative 2x, we make it positive 2x. And that's how we factorize. So if we're doing sum or difference of cubes, that's the setup that you do for sum and difference of cubes. Now, before I move on to anything else, does anyone have any questions about the 2 things that are currently up on the board? Well, actually, the 4 things that are currently up on the board because of the sneaky cousins. You take all the time you need, don't panic. I'm not going to scroll up from here for a while, so you've got time. So the reason we change the sign in the middle term is when we multiply everything out, if we don't change that sign, then the 2x and the negative 2x don't cancel. And so we wouldn't land up with just x cubed minus 8. We need that middle term to cancel out. And that's why we have to have the minus and the plus. Otherwise, we would have a third term. Okay. All right. So we've looked for highest common factor, we've looked for highest common bracket, we've looked for dots, we've looked for socks and docks. Then we are going to say, well, if we have 3 terms, what are we going to look for if we have 3 terms? Trinomial. Beautiful. So for this trinomial, I'm going to be a little bit nasty. I want you to try and practice this. I'm going to give you a grade 10 trinomial, so one that you really have to think about. I want you to factorize this for me. 4x squared minus 3x minus 1. I'd like you to factorize that for me. So I could be nastier because I'm giving you a constant of 1, which only has factors of 1 and 1. So this is when you're going to need to think about your crisscross method. Just do your best. See how it goes. And when you have an answer, chuck it in the chat for me. Don't forget to give me your answers. I know you're all on holiday and I'm asking you to do maths on your holiday. You're like, no, why? But because we've got to train our brains. Remember, your brain is a muscle. We've got to keep it active, keep it going. Get that muscle working. Oh, I have power again. That's nice. She's got an eye on you. Oh, look at these answers coming in. Okay. So good. So we're going to have 4x and x. That's beautiful. Now remember, we get those if we multiply these two together. So if we multiply the 4x and the x, we need to get 4x squared. Okay, so that's cool. And then we have negative 1 over here because we want to get negative 4x, and then we're going to have positive 1 over here. So if we multiply those together, we get the negative 1. And when we do our cross multiplying, so 4x times negative 1 gives us negative 4x, and x times 1 gives us positive 1x. And so negative 4x plus 1 gives me my negative 3x. So that's going to factorize down to 4x plus 1 and x minus 1. Now, if you have that written the other way around, so if you have x minus 1 and then 4x plus 1, 100%, doesn't matter. Okay, beautiful, guys. Absolute geniuses. Naledi, that's fine. If you have the white calculator, it does it for you. So 100%, that's fine. Yeah, but most people don't have that one. That's the only reason yeah. Okay, cool. So that's if we have 3 terms and we've got a trinomial. If we have 4 terms, what do we do now? Now we have 4 terms. Grouping. Yes. Grouping. Okay, so let me try and think of a nice example for grouping. All right. I'm going to make it nice and easy for you. Okay. So I've put it in the correct order for you already, if that helps. Don't want to confuse you too much this early in the lesson, which means you're going to need to try and, so you're going to be grouping these two together. and you're going to be grouping these two together. So basically you need to factorize those two things. This one and this one. Oh, that's a bit dark. I'll give you a minute or two. No rush. Hopefully this is summarizing quite a big section, and it's like bringing a lot of things back into your brain and clarifying some things. I'm hoping it's doing good things for you. We'll see when we start putting it all to practice. Tiana sneaking in there with a lovely little answer. We'll see. We'll see. That's okay. Try your best. I'm going to give you until 20 past, and then I'm going to go through the answer. Okay, let's go. So what we're going to do with these first two is we're going to do dots. And with this one, we're just going to do a highest common factor. So that's going to be x plus y, x minus y. And here I'm going to take out a highest common factor of 2, and I'm going to be left with x plus y. Okay, so that's my first step. Now, if you got to that step, that's really great. That's a perfect start. Now we're going to take out our highest common bracket, which is what we spoke about in 1. So we're going to take out x plus y from both terms. And then when you do any type of highest common bracket, you can literally just cross it out in your head. So you don't need to think about it anymore. And you just write what you're left with. So I'm left with x minus y, and then I'm left with plus 2. That's it. So you just write what you're left with. And that's our final answer. And that would be worth like 3 marks. So grouping is our friend. Now, remember, when you're grouping, you can group the first 2 terms. There's like lots of different ways. So I'm just going to write this as like term 1, term 2, term 3, and term 4. Oh my gosh, I'm making my life so difficult. Term 1, term 2, term 3, term 4. Now, when we group, there's lots of different ways we could group. We can group the first 2. Why is my pen giving me a hard time now? So we can group term 1 and term 2, and term 3 and term 4. Or we can group, term 1 and term 2, and term 3 and term 4. Or we could group term 1 and 3, and 2 and 4. Or we can group 1 and 4, and 2 and 3. Okay. And that's my lovely little pudding pies, is a summary of an entire giant section that you do in grade 9 and in grade 10. So if you would like to take a screenshot, please feel free. Shift down, I can. Does that help? I can try zoom out if that helps. That's a big summary of the whole of the factorization section that you've been doing. We're going to talk about one more thing very quickly. We're going to zoom through it, and then we're going to start jumping into some questions. Great. Okay. When we are dealing with fractions, we have multiplication of fractions and we have division of fractions. If we're plussing or minusing, we want a lowest common denominator, but timesing and dividing is different. Okay, so when we are timesing our fractions, the first thing we want to do is we want to see, can we cross simplify? Okay, so that means we are looking at a numerator and a denominator, and we're saying, is there something in those two that is the same that we can simplify? So for example, 4x and x, those x's can cancel. And if I look at 5 and 10, I can say, well, 5 goes into itself once and 5 goes into 10 two times. So if I was to rewrite those fractions, I would have 4 over 1 times 2 over 1, and that would just give me 8. Okay, so cross simplifying really is our friend. When we, let's just write it like this, 8 over 1, so we're going to multiply our tops and we're going to multiply our bottoms. Anything over 1 is just itself, so then we can write it as 8. If we have a divide sign, we are going to think KFC. Ooh. So that's keep, flip, change. Or tip and times, if you've done tip and times at school. Okay, so we're going to keep the first fraction, we're going to change the sign, and we are going to flip the second fraction. And then we're going to do exactly what we did just now. We're going to look at our top and a bottom and a top and a bottom, and we're going to see if there's something we can do. So 3 can go into itself once and goes into 6 two times. Then we can look at the 21 and the 7. 7 goes into itself once and into 21 3 times. So what am I left with? I am left with W over 3 times 1 over 2. W times 1 is W. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, that is just a very quick reminder of what we do when we have different fractions. Does anyone have any questions about anything we've done up until this point? This is your time to ask, because we're going to jump into some questions from here. Sure. What would you like me to go over? What is feeling confusing? Remember that all of these lessons are recorded and they are on the website in less than 24 hours. So if there's anything you need to hear again, or maybe if your signal's not great and so things are sort of going between the lines, you can always see it there. Okay, so for the last one, all we did was we saw that we had a divide sign. When we have a divide sign, we want to keep the first fraction. So we're going to keep the 3W over 21. We're going to change the sign. So we're going to change it from a divide to a times. And we're going to flip the second fraction. So it was 6 over 7. We're going to flip it to being 7 over 6. Then the blue lines that you're seeing, that's our cross simplification. So we're saying what can go into those different terms. We write what we land up getting, and then we just multiply the two tops and the two bottoms. Okay. All right, guys. On what level of spice of a question would you like? So if our spice level goes from 1 to 10, what spice level are you looking for this first question? Oh, some of you are wanting super spicy. Okay, I see. I'll find you a super spicy question then. Let's start with this one. So this isn't as spicy as they can get. I have a very spicy question for those of you who want to give it a go at the end of the lesson. This is like, I'd say this is like a 7 to 8 spice level. I'm going to chat you through a couple of things. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to factorize each of these. So everything that I have in pink, I want you to factorize. That's your first step. So that very first step is, sorry, can you see now? Is that easier? Let me just get rid of this number so it doesn't confuse anyone. The only thing I want you to do is factorize those 4 things. Keep everything else the same. So I want you to have the same divide sign there, the same times sign here. This would be a fraction, this will be a fraction, and this will be a fraction. I just want you to factorize those 4 things. And this is going to be 1 over x plus 4. So that very first step is going to be 4 marks. So just think about what we spoke about. Don't stress about the timesing, don't stress about the dividing, don't stress about the fact that they are fractions. I literally just want you to think of each of those different colors, and I want you to factorize them separately. And if we factorize these correctly, we have already got 4 marks in our pocket. Okay, I see we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. Yes, my little Tiana. Hello.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
I'm good, ma'am. Didn't ma'am miss me? I last spoke to ma'am last year.
Of course I have missed you. How is term going? How's grade 10 going?
Ish, ma'am, ish. It's tough. It's not my show. But ma'am, as I have a question, ma'am. If we have like, I know if it's in brackets, it's 1 term. So if I have an x outside, I can't cancel that x inside the bracket, ne? Beside on top.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. But can I give the answer since I'm here?
That's okay. You keep going, keep going. I think I'm going to chat through this one, but just because I don't want people to panic. But that was a very good question. I'm going to give you guys 1 more minute, not to have a final answer, just to have factorized these 4 things. And then I'm going to put those on the board. And then we're going to talk about the next step. So I'm just going to give you a bit more time, not a huge amount of extra time, just a little bit of extra time. Okay, so the first step is that we've got a trinomial happening up here. Okay, so I'm just going to do it over here. Now it's a nice, easy trinomial because there's no coefficient of our x squared. So we can just look at our factors of 6. So we've got 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. How are we going to get positive 1? We would get positive 1 if we had plus 3 minus 2. Okay, so we're going to have x minus 2, x plus 3. Now remember, again, it can be the other way around. So you can have x plus 3, x minus 2, but the signs need to be with those numbers. So our positive needs to be with the 3 and the negative needs to be with the 2. Now, if you got that, please give yourselves a tick. So this is a trinomial. Here we are going to do a highest common factor. So I'm going to take out x squared, and I'm going to be left with x minus 2. Again, give yourselves a tick if you got that. Now we're going to look at our purple. Again, we are going to take out a highest common factor. We're going to take out 3x. We're going to be left with x minus 4. Look up there, give yourselves a tick. Green, we've got dots. So we're going to have x plus 4, x minus 4. Give yourselves a tick. So far, just up until this point in the question, where are we at mark-wise out of 4? Who managed to get the glorious 4 out of 4? Who managed to get 1 out of 4? Where are we at right now? Okay, if you didn't get 4 out of 4, I want you to change the one that you got wrong, and then I want you to try the next part of the question. Excellent job, guys. I'm really proud of you. Well done. Next part of the question, you've got to be careful. We've got a divide sign. Now, when we have a divide sign, we need to think of KFC. So we're going to keep the first fraction. We are going to change the sign, and we are going to flip the second fraction. Yes, absolutely. Totally fine if you wrote it like that. Okay, so I want you to think very carefully. So we're going to keep the first fraction. We're going to change the sign. We're going to flip the second fraction. And this one will stay the same because nothing's happening to it. I'm not going to write that second step in just yet because I want you to try and figure it out. Once you've done that, I want you to cancel things that can cancel. So anything that can cancel, I want you to cancel. Basically, if it's exactly the same in that bracket, then it can cancel out. And see what answer you get. So I'm just going to put the step in over here. I'm going to flip this fraction. Now I want you to think about what can happen from here. And then once you have an answer, pop that answer in the chat for me. And we'll see how many people got it right. Oh, Tadasile, I'm so sorry. I didn't see what your answer was. Sorry, things happen in the chat very quickly. Sometimes I miss things. So, oh, I see an okay, okay. And then I think you're missing something at the bottom over there.
She got 4.
Okay.
The final, yeah.
I think you're missing some things at the bottom. Okay, x plus 3, like that, over x 3x to the power 3. Okay. I don't hate that, Vasily. I don't hate that. Okay, I'm gonna cancel by highlighting, just because I don't want to like draw lines through it, because then you're gonna miss what the answers are if you want to take a screenshot of this question. Okay, so this x minus 2 is going to cancel with that x minus 2. This x plus 3 can't cancel with anything. Okay, this x plus 4 can cancel with that x plus 4. This x minus 4 can cancel with that x minus 4. And so what we're left with is we are left with this x plus 3 at the top. And at the bottom, we're left with 3x, and we're left with this x squared, and we have to multiply them. And so 3x times x squared is going to give us 3x cubed. And that is going to be our final answer. So very well done to anyone who got there. You would get a mark just for doing the KFC. So you would get a mark for doing that multiplication sign and for showing that you flipped that fraction. What an awesome mark to get. And then you would get a mark for your final answer. So in the end, this question would be out of 6 marks, which is quite substantial. Is it possible to get the same numerators? What do you mean by getting the same numerators? So like if you have x plus 3 in a numerator and x plus 3, like if you, yes, and then you would just write both of those brackets next to each other. You can't cancel them out, but you would just write them next to each other. Yeah, 6 marks. It's a lot. But the thing is with these questions, if you break it down into steps and you think about it in small stages. So here, like the only thing you're thinking about in the step over here is, how do I factorize? That's the only thing you're thinking. And you all know how to factorize. So that's 4 easy marks. And then the next thing, all you're thinking about is KFC. And then all you're thinking about is simplifying. So 1 times anything is anything. So 1 times x plus 3 is just x plus 3. If you want to, you're welcome to write the 1 over there, but you don't need to put it there if you don't want to. If you'd like to take a screenshot, please feel free to take one. And then we're going to move on to our next question. Hopefully, we are learning stuff though. I know. Making everyone hungry, I'm sorry. Yeah, of course I'm going to give you another tough one. What do you think this is? You're all on holiday. You're not going to be doing maths during the day. I need to keep your mind active now. This one is nasty as I'd like it to be. Oh, do you guys want the meanest one there is? You know what? Why not is what I have to say. Why not? Let's go for broke, guys. Let's do the hardest possible one there is. The first thing, remember, we don't panic. The first thing we do is all we're focusing on is how do we factorize each of these different steps? How do we factorize each of these different steps? That is the only thing we have to focus on for this first step. That's it. We don't care that they're fractions. We don't care that we have divide signs. We just care how do we factorize each of these. And that whole first step, if you can factorize all of those, is worth 6 marks. This question in the end will be worth 8 marks. No, actually, it will be worth 9 marks. So let's see who can get there. If you can get all 9 marks while you're on holiday, sure, brain buff status for sure.
You guys got this. I believe in you. I think you're going to get the 9 marks.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. One step at a time, guys. Don't let it overwhelm you. For the green one, don't forget that if there is something, you have to do that first. My first hint. I'm so excited to see how you guys go with this question. Before you all, oh, sorry, this shouldn't be a plus, this should be a times. Before you all start panicking, I'm not going to write the answer just yet. I'm just showing the format of the first part, getting my colors ready so that I don't have to worry about that when we start talking. If you're needing extra time before I show you the factorization of this first step, please just let me know. You can send me a DM if you don't want others to know. But just give me an idea if you're needing a little bit of extra time. Not for the full answer, just for this first step of the 6 factorizations. I haven't gotten any messages, so I'm taking that I can start talking. If I'm wrong, you guys gotta let me know. All right, first step, highest common factor. We're going to take out 5a, and we are going to be left with 1 minus b. If you do not have that 1, don't be a silly banana. If there are 2 terms over here, 1, 2, there need to be 2 terms inside that bracket. Okay, because remember, if you re-multiplied, you need to get to where you started. If you got that, give yourselves a mark. And if you left out that 1, I want you to feel sad just for 10 seconds. I'm going to give you 10 seconds right now to feel sad. And then we're going to move past it. Okay. Purple, highest common factor. We are going to take out 2, and we're going to be left with 3 plus 2b. Give yourselves a mark. Yellow, we are going to take out 2a, and we're going to be left with 1 plus 2b. Again, if you left out that 1, silly banana, give yourselves a mark. Pink, it is a trinomial. We got to think about our little situation. So we've got 2b and b. We're trying to get positive 1. So we're going to put our 3 here. We're going to put a 1 there. So we're going to have positive 3b minus 2b. And that's going to give me positive 1b. So I'm going to have 2b plus 3 and b minus 1. Again, give yourselves a mark if you got to that point. Green. This is the sneaky one. You have to first take out a highest common factor. So you first got to take out 5. And then you'll be left with b squared plus 2b plus 1. And then this one is another trinomial. So again, with our trinomial, we're going to have 2b and b, and we're going to have a 1 on both of those and a plus on both of those. So we're going to have 2b plus 1, b plus 1, and give yourselves a mark. Okay, before we do anything else, because we're going to have to do one more thing with factorizing before we start playing around. Who is getting 6 out of 6 in this first step? Or who got 1 out of 6 or 2 out of 6? Who left out those ones in those brackets? Let me know. Tell me how this first step went. Give me an idea of what's going on. 5's not bad, guys. 5 is not bad. I think a lot of those 5s are because we forgot about the highest common factor. Tiana, I feel like that is because you forgot 1s. Remember, for the trinomials, if you wrote it as b minus 1, 2b plus 3, that's also fine. Doesn't have to be in the order I've written my brackets. Okay, nice job, guys. So now from here, you really can do this in one step. So I'm going to just sort of write it out as we go. So I'm going to keep my 5a 1 minus b over 2b plus 3b minus 1 times 2, 3 plus 2b. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay, so how can I help? I can see you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. It might be a mic situation. Do you want to try, if you have headphones, maybe try plug those in? Okay, now when we factorize this bottom, we're going to have 5b plus 1, b plus 1. Now, Amy, I see your question. If you had 5b plus 5 and then in brackets b plus 1, that's okay. But in this step now, you need to take out that 5. So if you got that in that step before, it's okay. But now you need to take out the 5. So now we've just factorized that further. So we can give ourselves another mark for that. Now we've got a divide sign, which means KFC. So we're going to change that to a times, and we are going to flip this fraction. And just for knowing that we have to do that, we get a mark. Yeah, so gift again, if you said b plus 1 and then 5b plus 5, that's fine. But in this next step, you would need to have this green step over here, where basically you're taking the 5 as a common factor out of that second bracket. Okay. Sure, so at the moment, we are sitting on 8 marks, guys. We're in the final stage. We're in the final stage where we can start canceling things out. I'm going to give you a minute or two to see if you can figure out what to cancel. So I'm just going to give you some time and tell me if you can get to a final answer. Write your final answer in the chat for me, and let's see who agrees and who disagrees with each other. But I'm so proud of you all. You've done amazingly tonight. I did not think we were going to be able to do a question like this today. It's a horrible question. You're doing so well. As soon as you've got an answer, pop it in the chat for me. It's okay, Michael. It happens. Like, well done for persevering. I know how frustrating it can be. Healthy on Wednesday. Are we ready? Ready to finish off this question? Okay. And let's start canceling. This is my favorite part of these questions. Okay. So there are a lot of different things we could do here, but let's start with the easy things. So 1 plus 2b is the same as 2b plus 1. Remember, if they're the same sign, it doesn't matter. So the pluses is the same. 2b plus 1 is the same as 1 plus 2b. So they can cancel. Okay. Same goes for this 2b plus 3 and this 3 plus 2b. Because it's a plus sign, it doesn't matter. Okay. Then we've got this situation here with this b plus 1. That's going to cancel with that b plus 1 over there. And then we have this 5, which can cancel with that 5. Now, my question to you, oh, sorry, and the 2s. Oh, wrong color. We've already used purple. What have we not used? Orange. This 2 over here can cancel with that 2 over there. Oh, and our A's. Oh, this is very exciting. This A over here can cancel with this A over here. Now we're left with the situation where we have 1 minus b at the top and we've got b minus 1 at the bottom. Can we cancel those? Can we cancel 1 minus b and b minus 1? No, you're absolutely right. We cannot. We cannot. Because they are not the same. However, how can we make them the same? What is the sneaky thing that we're allowed to do when it comes to factorization? And it's linked when we have highest common brackets. This switcheroo, guys, we can do a switcheroo. Switcheroo. It's such a sneaky one. So this question's actually out of 10 marks. I completely forgot about the sneaky switcheroo. Yes, Lachluma, well done. So what we're going to do over here, and you could do it for the top or the bottom, we're going to take out a minus and we're going to flip those around. So we're going to do a switcheroo. And we are left with the same at the bottom. And we're going to times that. Now this is just 1 over b plus 1 because all the others have cancelled and the whole of the third term is cancelled. So we don't need to write it with anything. So we actually get another mark for doing that switcheroo over there. Then this can cancel with this. And so our final answer is actually just -1 over b plus 1. Final mark. 10 whopping marks. How crazy is that? Now the switcheroo was super sneaky. So if you missed the switcheroo, that is very normal. I forgot about the switcheroo. But if you got 9 out of 10, that is phenomenal, guys. And even if you just got these 6 marks up here, I'm so proud of you. Yeah, 9 out of 10. 6 is still amazing. Nice job, guys.